Number one, you and I disagree on the intent of the illegal knee.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say right off the bat, Steve, that obviously nobody but Michael Bisping knows if, in fact, it was intentional, and Michael Bisping is saying it was not. So let's start with saying that. But I'm going to say this. I have covered thousands of fights over many, many, many years, and I know that there's fighters, and you see it all the time, where they're poised to throw an extra punch in boxing before a knockdown or when a fight stops, and they don't do it. They're able to hold back. They're able to, even though they're in the heat of the moment, things are going on. When the referee says stop, when they see the guy go down, they can control themselves to not throw that extra punch. MMA fighters know that if a fighter has his knees on the ground, they are not allowed to throw a knee at that person to his head. There was no question in anybody's mind that Jorge Rivera was down. You can't debate that fact. It wasn't even like he was in the process of getting up and Michael Bisping threw the knee. I think given the control that the fighters show and given the control that Michael Bisping has shown in his career, I think that is evidence to me that, in fact, he knew, and he was just angry because of the nonstop stream that Jorge Rivera had done prior to the fight, and that he felt like that was a little bit of vigilante justice that he pulled out.
I just showed Dave the video. Dave, what do you think?
In my mind, there's no question that it was illegal and that he...
Not illegal. Did he do it on purpose?
Yeah, I think he probably did.
Okay. See, my rationale on this is, as a fellow hothead who does stuff that might not have intent behind it, and I'll bring a good example up, because who cares about me, and no one has any knowledge of a track record with me. I'll give you a good example, Roger Clemens. When Roger Clemens, in the World Series against the Mets with Piazza, the bat comes flying out at him. I think Roger Clemens was so amped up, and who knows what he was hopped up on at that point, but he was so amped up that he threw the bat, but I don't know that he thought about it. Like it was a premeditated...
Bad analogy, Steve, and I'll tell you why that's a bad analogy. That was something different in his element. It's not every day that a pitcher ends up with a bat in his hand, a half-broken bat in his hands, and what to do with it. It happens every training session, every day, that when you're fighting, do you throw a punch or not throw a punch when the guy is down, or do you not throw the knee for MMA fighters? It is just part of their daily existence when they're sparring. So it's a totally different thing. This was something that was totally in line with Bisping's training and what he had worked on for many, many years. Not throwing that knee to the head when the opponent is down. Roger Clemens, when he got the bat from Piazza, that's a totally different thing because it's something that happens once or twice in a career maybe, and it's an unusual situation. So I don't think you can really compare the two.
Well, you can snap for a second. I mean, I think, all right, let's look at fighting. I don't know that Dan Henderson, when he leapt into a final punch at UFC 100, meant it maliciously, I mean, like evil. I think instinct kicks in, and sometimes you lose sight of what you're doing and where you are.
Well, here's my thing. Especially in the sport of boxing and mixed martial arts, any combat sport, the athletes always have to have respect for their opponents. We're hearing it a lot in the NHL about the hits to the head. You have to have respect for your opponent. But it's even more so in the fighting sports where there is a real life and death situation going on here and a significant struggle. Kneeing a guy in the head when he's not defending himself, not expecting it, is very dangerous, and we're seeing what's going on with concussions in the NHL and the concussions in the NFL, and that's a perfectly ripe situation for it. Bisping, and Dan, hey, you know what? I'm going to rip Dan Henderson. I did it at the time, and I'll do it now. What he did was wrong. Whether it was in the heat of the moment or because of the trash talking that he let him have it. At first, he thought it was funny, and Henderson did make a comment that, yeah, I wanted to give him a good one to shut him up, but then later he backtracked when he realized that he was wrong. But in the Bisping situation, Bisping was terribly irate, and I think that it was clearly a reaction, and that can't be tolerated because, you know what, we're fortunate. It appears that Jorge Rivera is okay. But what if Jorge Rivera suffered a career-ending concussion or worse?